Okay, so today's video we're going to be discussing systems of linear equations. And a system of linears is really going to be talking about multiple lines and where they touch. So the goal of everything that we're doing in this section is to find out where the lines touch. Now there are going to be three different options that can happen, right? So let's look at the first one. The first option that comes up is one solution. And what that means is that the two lines overlap at a single point. So notice this green line and this orange line, they overlap at that point, x1, comma, y1. The next one is going to be called no solutions. And if you notice that these two lines, this orange and green line, they're parallel. And if you remember from something that you did before in another class or previously in your math experience, that parallel lines, they never touch or they never intersect. So that's why there's no solution, because these lines never touch. The last one is infinitely many solutions. So notice that this green line and this orange line, they're right on top of each other. So the amount of times that the orange line touches the green line is infinitely many. These are the three possible different things that can happen when you're finding the solution to a system of linear equations. Now, there are going to be two different ways that we do them. We either do it by solving by substitution or solving by elimination and addition. So I'll put this up right after this so you can see it, and then you can take the notes for it. Okay, so the first example we're going to do is going to be 0 is equal to 4 plus x minus 2y, and 7x equals 4y plus 12. And now remember, the goal again is to figure out where they touch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it by substitution first, and then by addition or elimination on the other side. So first, substitution. So the goal is to pick a variable. Now notice that in the first equation, the x variable is the nicest variable to pick because it's really easy to solve for. So what I'm going to do is, one, I'm going to pick x in equation 1. Step 2 is going to be to actually try to solve for this variable. So let's write that out as 0 equals 4 plus x minus 2y. Then we're going to add 2y to both sides so that we can get 2y is equal to 4 plus x, and then solve for x by subtracting the 4. So this gives us x is equal to 2y minus 4. So that's going to be step 2, where we're actually solving for the x variable. The next thing we need to do is take the variable that we found and plug into the other. Okay. Now remember from previous videos, what we do when we plug in is we put parentheses around whatever we want to plug in for. So here in this 7x, what I really want is parentheses around the x is equal to 4y plus 12. In that parentheses goes the 2y minus 4. If you look at this new equation, this equation is set up so that we only have y variables left. So now we can solve for the y by distributing the 7 as 14y minus 28 is 4y plus 12. Bring the y's over to one side by subtracting 4y. So we get 10y minus 28 is 12. Add 28 to both sides. So we get 10y is 40. So if we can see dividing both sides by 10 here, we get y is equal to 4. Okay. So the last step that we need to do is take this number that we got, which is y equals 4, and plug it back into either one of these equations. And what's really nice about this is that you can actually plug it in anywhere. It doesn't matter. As long as your equation has both x's and y's in it, it'll work. So step 4, let's take that y value and plug it into there. So x is equal to 2, again, parentheses, minus 4, with a 4 value in there. So x is equal to 8 minus 4, or x is equal to 4. Now the question that we started with is, where do these lines touch? So where does line 1 touch line 2? And the answer for that is the lines touch at the point 4, 4. Okay. So be very specific that these lines intersect or touch at the point x, y, the two x, y values that we found. So this is the substitution. Let's go ahead and erase this and do the addition or elimination version. So addition and elimination have a very similar step process. Some parts are a little bit different though. The first part is the same. What we're going to do is, the first part is different, the second part is the same. So the first part, what we want to do is make sure that all the variables and the equal signs line up. It doesn't matter where they line up as long as they're lined up, and you move around the variables and the numbers algebraically. So I think it's easier to move the 7x over to the right, so that we get 0 is 4y plus 12 minus 7x. But notice that when compared to this one, we want the constant in the front, the x in the middle, and the y to be last. So can we also see, by moving this x to the middle, we get the minus 7x. By moving the 12 to the front, you get a 12. And by moving this to the back, the 4y, we get plus 4y. And the 0 stays the same. Write the second equation underneath it. So you can see that the equal signs are lined up, the constants, the x variable, and the y variables are all lined up. The next step is to pick the easiest variable. Now, in this case, the y and the x's are fairly easy. But remember, in this problem, the goal is to make the constants in front of the variable the same, but with different signs. So if I were to pick x, I need a 7 here. If I pick a y, I would need a 4 here. So I would need to multiply this by 2. Let's go ahead and pick the 2, because I don't want to multiply by a 7, essentially. So take this equation, multiply it by 2. On both sides. So what we get on the left is 0. What we get on the right is 8 plus 2x minus 4y. Next, write the other equation, which is this one over here. Write that one underneath. Oh, I'm sorry. This one over here. So we get 4 plus x minus 4 plus 4y. I'm writing the wrong equation. Sorry. 12 minus 7x plus 4y. So the variable we picked was y. And notice that the numbers in front of the y are the same numbers with opposite sides in front. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to add straight down. So add straight down here, we get 0. We add straight down here, we get 20. Add straight down here, we get minus 5x. And we add straight down here, we get 0. So if you notice, the name of this is called addition or elimination. And the reason for that is because we're adding and then we're eliminating a variable. The next steps are exactly like what we did in substitution. Once we have an equation, take this equation and solve for the x variable. So 0 equals 20 minus 5x gives us subtraction of 20 to both sides. So negative 20 is minus 5x, or dividing both sides by negative 5, x is going to be 4. Now remember, once we got the x variable in the previous example, we took it and we substituted it back into any equation we wanted that had both an x and a y. So let's take that number, that x equals 4, and plug it into that one. So this is step 4. So we're going to get 0 is equal to 4 plus 4 minus 2y. So we get 0 is equal to 8 minus 2y. Negative 2y is equal to negative 8, or y is equal to 4. So notice that we got the same answers, right? At negative 4 and 4. And the reason for that, again, is because the lines touch or intersect